We're going to transition into the next guy, and that would be Breece Hall. And I think we're getting into candidates that like people now actually would make a legitimate argument for as the RB1 overall. I mean, the argument with Breece Hall is fairly simple. This conversation was happening in a better, just world where Breece Hall did not tear an ACL. We wouldn't be having this podcast episode because the answer to who is the Dynasty RB1 overall would be Breece Hall. He was clearly separating himself as the RB1 overall in a tier of his own. He is an absolute physical freak, bell cow running back, everything that we hoped and dreamed of, who is also leading all NFL running backs in yards per route run. He was a force in the run game, a force in the pass game. He was young at 21 years old. We had hopes, we had dreams. Really, the question is a medical one. Do we care about the ACL? Do we think that he'll bounce back? When do we think he'll bounce back? Are you willing to eat the year of no production? Let's assume that you're not a contender. You're just doing a startup right now, a mid-season startup. Okay? Mid-season startup, and there's no points counting towards this year. You're just viewing in a vacuum going forward. Would Breece Hall be the first running back you take off the board?
That's a much better question than otherwise. He would probably be in consideration. I don't know.
Because we have to ask that, right? Like if not even if pretending like this year doesn't even exist, if Breece Hall isn't your clear, he's the first running back overall, then he's obviously we have to rule him out, right? Because if you're not even sure that he would be then he can't be, because then you'd rather have the players that are playing now. But if he's at least that, then he's in the conversation.
I think he would be my RB1 if this year didn't matter at all. Like if we just erase this year from the existence of the world and move forward with 2023 as year one, I think he'd probably be my RB1, but I'd probably still be looking at selling him in the offseason when the talk of him, recovery, his miraculous recovery from this ACL, he's ahead of schedule, he's just smashing in training camp. I'd probably be looking to sell him because we see these ACLs tend to last, like whatever year they get injured in, the next one still sucks. Either they have complications, or I don't know if it's complications, but like compensatory injuries or what it is. But like I remember Dalvin Cook missed a bunch of time his year. He came back from ACL. He was decent in the year that he played, or when he played, but he wasn't the Dalvin Cook we've come to know since then. Saquon Barkley came back slow, and then they started ramping up and they stepped on somebody's foot, and I don't know. It's probably not related, or somebody stepped on his foot. I can't remember the way it worked. Something happened anyways. And then like with wide receivers, we see ACLs tend to linger for another year as well. We've seen Allen Robinson and Cortland Sutton and Odell Beckham Jr. all struggle in the year back from ACLs. The list goes on and on and on. I don't have a comprehensive list, which is why I'm not like super like Breece Hall's definitely going to suck next year. But the overall like noticeable trend, like the anecdotal trend, seems to be there that it's a 2-year injury.
Yeah, it's a fear, and if he shows any signs of it being a fear, then the market will react accordingly.
Yeah, so I think he's definitely in the conversation we ignore this year. I don't know that I would like be real happy to go into the season with him at RB1 overall, even though he might be my RB1 overall. It would probably be like, he's my RB1, but I'd probably just rather have some other combination of players or picks.
Yeah, he's not my RB1 overall, but there is a world where by like week 6 next year, he is my RB1 overall. I'll put it that way. There's more of a world for him to be that
week 6
than most of these other players.
Week 6, like if he just comes back and starts smashing, you're not just going to move him to RB1 overall right away.
Okay, sure, whatever. Same way. I just threw an arbitrary number. I didn't like put a lot of thought into
what
number.
What would like?
Okay,
my concern is week 3
next year. I guess I meant week 6 in the sense of like I don't think he's playing week 1, so I thought he would like come back around week 4 or week 5, and then he would like start looking like a baller, and then by week 6. But that's
I'm basically in at him at RB1 as soon as he's productive again. That's the time.
I mean the way that I've mentioned it. So I think honestly, like it's interesting where I would almost like compare a lot of these running backs to Barkley's like journey here, where I think that Taylor right now is like in. I view him similarly. We'll talk about him next, I guess. I view him similarly to Barkley, like middle of last year, where it's like taking the long view. I'm in on Jonathan Taylor in the sense that I think he's incredible and he's going to be incredible. Taking the short
Do you
view,
mean generational? Because Saquon
yes,
is
yes, I mean
generational.
generational,
JT is generational,
right?
so that makes sense.
Yeah, so taking the long view, he's going to be generational. He is generational. Taking the short view, he's going to be pedestrian because his team is probably not going to give him all the snaps because they're going to be resting him if and when he does come back. And this team is a tire fire and ineffective, and they're not going to be able to generate a lot of points for the running back. And then he's just not going to have the ability because he's playing on a bum ankle to overcome all of these obstacles, right? We saw that with Saquon last year. He was in a shitty situation. He wasn't being used as much, and he wasn't actually that good. And then this year he comes back and he's awesome. And it's like, did I want to be in on Saquon last year? Absolutely, yes, this time. But like, did I necessarily want to pay the full fright of what I expected him to be now and going forward? Well, not really, because I also wanted to win games, you know? And it's like, so where I'm at with like Taylor is like, I don't necessarily think that he's going to help me win games for the rest of this year, which makes him a little bit particular. Hall is at a different stage in the journey, right? He's at like the Saquon, like a year plus ago, where it was like, I think this guy will one day get back to being an elite RB1 overall type candidate. And maybe that happens immediately when he steps back on a football field, and maybe that happens like a year after that. And I just don't really know. So like taking the long view, I want to be in on Breece. And I've been both buying and selling Breece. Like I've sold Breece off on almost all my contenders that had Breece, and I've been buying Breece, like buying the shit out of Breece on my rebuilders.